Good afternoon. I'm Jay Zambrano. I'm Vice President for University Advancement and University Relations here at the University of Houston downtown. That's a lot of universities. So at UHD. As many of you all know, the President's Lecture Series brings together the university community to reflect on topics that are relevant and important to all we serve. The University of Houston downtown prides itself on being an institution where ideas and perspectives are welcomed and shared. Through these platforms, we create the opportunity for those in our campus community and the community at large to listen to and interact with the leaders of industry and policymakers, as well as the local and national experts, so that we each are better informed and equipped to take on the challenges of an ever-changing world. This month and next month, we got to work on that with the federal government, but this month and next month, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, el mes de nuestra herencia hispana. This is a time to honor the rich cultural contributions of the Hispanic and Latino communities in the U.S., celebrating their impact on art. And today we are celebrating art, entertainment, entrepreneurship, and wonderful stories. It fosters appreciation for diverse traditions that we bring, but also within our own communities, because we're a very diverse community, and the histories that shape our nation's identity. I also want to take time to thank the people that made today possible. Our lead sponsors for today's lecture are Tex-Mex Institute, otherwise known as a favorite eatery here in Houston, Gringos, one of our sponsors. Big round of applause to them. And also a big thank you to Community Preschools, a network of amazing high quality early childhood centers here in Houston. And one of their principals, their chief of operations, is here with us today, and also a very proud Gator alum, Jaciel Castro. Thank you so much for today. Thank you. So before we get on with the program, I have the honor of introducing the University of Houston downtown president, Dr. Lauren Blanchard.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very special welcome to our panel discussion today that will explore Hispanic heritage and its impact on society. As for those of you who may not know, we conduct these lecture series on a regular basis. This is our 24th installment. And the interesting part about it is that I say for each one, it just can't get any better. And I think today I'm probably going to be saying we've reached the best. So by definition, a Hispanic serving institution has an undergraduate full-time enrollment of at least 25% Hispanic students. UHD far exceeds that minimum eligibility requirement with a student population that is 57%. Something that we are mighty proud of here at UHD. On July 17th, 2024, President Joe Biden issued a new executive order to establish the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity through Hispanic Serving Institutions. The president's executive order recognizes that Hispanic serving institutions have a history of expanding educational opportunities for generations of Hispanics and Latino students and seeks to strengthen the capacity of such institutions by overcoming barriers to federal resources. Today, as I welcome all of you to this discussion, I want to make one key point in that just as Hispanic serving institutions, SHIs, have a history of expanding educational opportunities for generations of Hispanics, Hispanic citizens of the United States have a history of positive contributions to American culture, society, and economy. So in recognition, come on in, just fall in a seat. In recognition of National Hispanic Heritage Month, our panel will explore this impact, discussing topics such as representation in media, storytelling, and the immigrant experience. So first of all, thank you all for joining us, as I said earlier, and it's my pleasure to really turn this whole entire discussion over to our moderator, and then he will in turn introduce our other panelists today. Are you doing the moderator? Okay, all right. We're going to get this right in just a minute here. So it's my pleasure to turn the discussion over to our moderator, but we're going to be introduced further to our two panelists, Mr. Richard Abraham Rugnow, who is the president of RARE, public relations firm, who will introduce our panelists. Mr. Rugnow I keep saying it right, it's in the notes. Stop it. Mr. Rugnow describes RARE as a culture hacking PR agency that executes non-traditional campaigns, opening a window to engage, build, and grow meaningful connectivity with influencers and thought leaders. The campaigns created by RARE are authentic, they're creative, they're strategic, they're resonating, and they engage global multicultural consumers. If you've not had a chance to check out Mr. Rugnow on social media, I tell you he's quite entertaining. You'll get a chance, and knowledgeable as well, and quite entertaining, and you'll get a sense of what that means today as well. So I'll turn it back over now to you, Mr. Zambrano, and to introduce the other two panelists. And I noticed when I first got here, normally our panelists are already on stage, but I am understanding that there's to be a grand entry to the stage. So I look forward to seeing what that grand entry is going to look like. Turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Blanchard. Thanks for being a team player there. Sorry. Okay. So, and of course, Dr. Blanchard just introduced Richard, but before I pass it on to Richard, I just want to give a little reminder to everybody. Y'all were handed a little invite. We have of course, y'all been hearing about the gala that's coming up, but also a very important Terrence Blanchard concert. That's just a little promo, but hold on to that. There'll be more information about that after we conclude our presentation. And also, we'll also have a few books that hopefully you'll be one of the lucky ones to get. Of course, one of our panelists, Chris Rivas, is an author, and it's called Brown Enough. And I was asked in the office if I've read this book. And my response was, read it. I've lived it. You know, so anyway, Chris, I promised to read it. So anyway, so without further ado, Richard, do you have a mic with you? Are you ready to go? If not, I'm supposed to pass this mic over because these are all the mics we got. So, all right.
Here, I'll give Chris his.
You're good?
Yes, I'll take your mic. Thank you. What's up? What's going on? I haven't been to Houston in some time, so I want to thank you all for the good weather. You're right. Flights got here on time, all good stuff. So I am Richard Abraham Rugnow, and I'm very proud to be, hopefully you agree, a good friend of Jay Zambrano. We've toured the country many, many times together and had, he taught me about Texas barbecue, which I didn't know there was a difference between Texas barbecue and everybody else, but now I know. Relax. We also had conversations about Whataburger versus In-N-Out. Relax. We know it's In-N-Out. All right, so Hispanic Heritage Month. This is a new spin on, we hope, is a new conversation around storytelling, but from the perspective of storytelling our story. Many times as Latinos, any Latinos in the house? Any Latinos in the house? We tell the stories of our parents and our grandparents, but how many times do we spend the time to construct a story of ourselves? So this conversation is about what, so what, now what? What's my story? What's not my story? What should my story be? So what challenges you to reconstruct what you believe to be your story. And the now what is, now what are you gonna do? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Rivas.
What's up, y'all? I know I should be on the stage, but I'm gonna read you a little bit from the book, so I'm gonna use the podium. Cool. Beautiful. I'm supposed to introduce myself a little, but I thought one of the easiest ways would just be to read. I'll say a couple things. I make a lot of things. I'm an artist, first and foremost, that encompasses a lot of different mediums. Storytelling changed my life. I believe that everything is a story, one that you have been made to believe or chosen to believe, and knowing the difference is profound. Another way of saying that is, until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. This is why the lion must write. Yeah. Yeah, snaps are cool. Snap it up. Snaps all day. Now that you've opened the snap door, you're like committed to it. An invitation. Oh, and I think we have like these books for y'all. I don't know how you get them, but they're here, and I will sign them. These are the people to talk to. In this book, there is no 3-step plan to help you better understand colorism, colonization, police violence, the student loan crisis, family love, or making it in America. I'm not Oprah or Tony Robbins or even Ibram X. Kendi. This book will not make you rich, solve all your problems, find you a soulmate, or fix the world. I'm not an expert because I am brown. I do not speak on behalf of all brown people. That is impossible. If I carry any expertise, it is that of experience, my experience. I was born this way in this body, and I have lived this life to the best of my abilities. I know what hurts me and what helps me. Sometimes I avoid what helps and I do what hurts even when I know I shouldn't. Honesty is what I can control. Honest with the fact that I can deeply want things to change and at the same time be complacent in the actions that keep things the way they are. Honest with my confusion, my anger, my love, my rage, my disruption, my hurt, my lust, my contradictions. Honest about how important and good it feels to see oneself and to be seen. Honest about how I am just beginning to discover a space that I didn't even know existed until Ta-Nehisi Coates, a person some academics have called our modern-day James Baldwin. He told me in a room full of people just like this that there was no space for my brown body in the race conversation. Who would I have been had I known about this space? And so the next many years was me finding out. I didn't know which way was up, so like any good person in crisis, I started blowing up my life. I broke up with a great girlfriend because she was white. I wrote a New York Times article about it, which ended up going viral. I lashed out at a cop. I got thrown in jail. I accidentally radicalized a young Indian student of mine. I started learning Spanish. I started a podcast. I turned down jobs. I burnt a lot of bridges. I booked a spot on a network sitcom, and I wrote stories about everything. I was a baby learning to walk again, tripping and falling all the way across the room, and that's what this book is about. Good intentions, falling down, asking big questions, knocking things over and confronting the truth. As James Baldwin declares in Notes of a Native Son, I gave the world murderous power over me. Yes, me too. Anything to be seen, to be liked, to make it. I gave the world murderous power over me. No more. No longer chasing a carrot dangling from my forehead that I was told would be some answer to some dream that wasn't even mine. No longer accepting a story that denies me my space, a large, diverse space that once did not contain me or you or us. A space that is actually what the global majority of the world is and looks like: brown, colorful, diverse, just like this room. There is nothing new here. I am not filling this space or claiming it as my own, but simply moving through it or letting it move through me. Even better, I'm letting it move me. And right now, I allow you to let yourself be moved. Moved to speak, to create rituals, to grieve, and to take action. Action for the health of the community, which is everyone under the gaze of whiteness. Because someone needs to bring love, exposure, and vulnerability to this invisible world. Someone needs to turn the light on and say, my culture-filled melanin brothers and sisters, anyone who has felt left out or like their voice or actions don't matter, they do matter. You matter. And so I need you to take part in this process. With all your shades, your colors, your wounds, your scars, your tattoos, with all your brownness and with all your shit, your joy, your celebration, your history, with anything and everything that you are, will you join me in this space? There's no going back now. I'm on a mission to find self, and maybe it's myself, maybe it's a collective self. Maybe I will not feel so vague, confused, and questioning about my brown identity, where I stand or belong. And maybe I'll move beyond labels and tags, and I will find more space where I am free to actually be myself, not some perfect self. Space is the Buddhist version of God. Space to me is peace and rest from needing to get it right, and it feels like there is a lot to get right. I am on a mission to ask the questions and take the actions necessary to create more space that allows me and recognize and rest in this, my perfectly ordinary, everyday, beautiful brown self. Indigenous peoples believe that anything that restores balance is medicine: a good meal, medicine; some tea, medicine; a hike with a friend, medicine; a nap, medicine; hanging out at your university, medicine. Young brown boys and girls embracing their gorgeous melanin, casting spells of self-worth, medicine. Because its scales are out of whack and it is time to restore them. Will you join me? I thought we was gonna snap, but that's on you. I would like to introduce Annie Gonzalez, who is a dear friend, a collaborator, just a brilliant light and human being, and just an incredible artist and actress and wonderful being. Yeah, please.
I have my own. And I will take the stage because I'm tiny. Hi guys, how are we doing? First of all, wait, can we just take I think we just need a moment to take everything that my brother Christopher Rivas just said in. You know, I feel like I had something completely different planned with what I was gonna say being up here, but I feel like after that, it serves to have like a moment of absorption. You know, I feel like a lot of the time as we move through the world, as artists, as creatives, as creators, once we finish something, we're looking to make the next thing. Once we finish a book, once we finish watching a movie, we're looking for the next movie, the next show to put on. And we forget that it takes most of us years to come up with something like this. So when you consume something out there, don't feel like you need to rush. You know, I feel like especially in this culture of book clubs, 1 book a month, it took someone 4, 10, 12 years to create this work of art. It's okay to take our time to absorb it. Thank you, Chris, for that beautiful excerpt. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Snap, 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 snap. There we go. Yes, you guys take direction well. Okay. My name is Annie Gonzalez. I am an actress. I am a singer. I'm a producer. I'm an artist. I'm a human first, and I think I do that best. And I think that's what has led me to storytelling. I was raised by a single mom, only child. We grew up in a garage most of my life. I've been professionally acting since I was 9 years old, which I know is really young. I remember they said, you know, for every 50 no's, you'll get 1 yes. My first audition, I booked it, so I knew I was destined for greatness. You know, a lot of storytelling for me came out of a means of survival. Because I was raised by a single mom, I was, for lack of a better term, passed around a lot. You know, different church members, family members, you know, neighbors that were your tias, right? And I remember early on realizing that if I could make you fall in love with me, if I could entertain you, if I could captivate you for a second, you'll protect me. So for me, I realized walking through the world, it was my means of protection, self-preservation. And now as I get to walk in my career, and I'm so grateful that I have the agency that I do over the stories that I get to tell, I feel like it's not just of a self-preservation thing, but a preservation of our culture, right? A lot of the stories that we see front-facing are, like you said, made and written and created for white audiences. And I'm fortunate enough to have stepped in to these narratives that are for us and by us, and telling our nuanced versions of our stories that no one else would be able to do. So I'm just really excited to share this space with all of you guys, with my family up on this stage, and so you can get to know a little bit more about what we do and how we do it. Next, I would love to introduce Daniel, a really good friend of mine, a founder of Kids of Immigrants, and beautiful artist and human.
Check, check. Chris, I haven't read the book. You gave it to me, but now I must read it. Wow. Thank you. I have to read the book now. I feel like we could have gone home after you said that, and after what you said. So, where do I start? My name is Daniel Buezo. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and live in LA for 10 years now. Went to school for social work. I have a BSW in that. I think growing up, once I graduated high school, and just through the hardships of living in the hood, being first generation, and just that duality upbringing of parents from Honduras, but I'm from Brooklyn, but it's like I am, but I'm not. It's sort of like a confusion growing up. I didn't know if I was American. I didn't know if I was, when I went to Honduras, I'll be called a gringo. They're like, you're from New York, you're not Honduran. So growing up, I chose social work because I just wanted to contribute some way, somehow. I always felt like a lot of times our people didn't do better because they didn't know better. And for me, being Honduran, I never saw myself in culture, in pop culture, specifically in fashion, in music. I think I always remember when like Jennifer Lopez and Fat Joe and Big Pun, just because they were Latino, that was like, growing up in New York, that was a moment that was like, wow, we are in this, we're part of this. Still didn't see Honduran representation in culture. And I think, when I started Kids of Immigrants, which is 8 years old now, it's a brand, it's a community, it's a mission that we're on to represent our stories through the medium of fashion and streetwear. I just wanted to step up and be the person that I didn't see growing up. I think I use my 16-year-old version as a point of reference every time. Like, what am I doing and who am I speaking to? And I think we'll talk more about storytelling throughout this whole thing, but that is always my point of reference. I think, my parents came here, migrated to New York. And for me, they like passed the baton. And it's like, it's your turn to go. And I think, I'm on a mission to find my self-worth and leave things better than they were and pass the baton to the next generation. So I'm always constantly looking at the next generation as a point of reference. Like, what, on a personal note, is like, God, what do you need me to tell the next generation? To find that sense of inspiration, that reference point. I do strongly believe that if you can see it, then you can be it, and then you can do it. And I think a lot of times we just don't have those role models, growing up in these neighborhoods and these different eras of time. So I think for me and my team, our company, our brand, that's been our mission, is to be the leaders that we're waiting for. And we're not looking for no one to save us. It's on us to do it. So I think we'll get started.
All right, this is when it starts to get real, really real. Storytelling. I'm a born-again millennial, although I'm a Gen Xer. There you go. I'm in my 50s. And as somebody who's Mexican and Filipino, any Filipinos in here? I didn't think so. Any Mexicans in here? Okay. Yeah, just checking. Anybody else besides Mexican?
We got Honduras in the house.
Honduras. ¿Dónde eres? Okay.
Honduras, Catracho.
Cousins. Any Ricans, Puerto Ricans? Cuban. No. Got them. Okay. Anybody eat rice and beans? Just checking. All right, just checking. All right. But I referenced being a Gen Xer and Mexicano, because the conversation that these beautiful youngins have today is about self-identity and self-worth, something that I was not taught to do, because culturally, I think some of us are nodding our heads like, we're not told to be forward. We're not told to even use the word I. So I want to talk about, and just not random, but each of you around, what does Hispanic Heritage Month, let's get the Hispanic Heritage Month conversation out and let's go deeper into storytelling. But what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you, Dan?
I think Hispanic Heritage Month for me, I honestly just started to celebrate it as part of like my year. I think I feel like what I appreciate the most, because I'm Honduran all day, every day, Latino, Hispanic, and that world all day, every day. I feel like what I do appreciate about it the most is just how it's a little bit more focused, and we get these type of opportunities to go more in depth. I feel like it's a great what I've seen, and 8 years ago when we started our company, and what I still see now, it shines light on Latinos who aren't, I guess, on the bigger stage, and it goes a little bit deeper. And I love to see like that these kids or these different artists or brands who are amazing already get an opportunity that creates that the momentum is created through Hispanic Heritage Month. I think that's what I really love about it. I think if that month can focus on going deeper and deeper into like these stories, into these people, I truly appreciate that part rather than a sort of generic kind of.
Yeah, Chris.
month.
Oh, Hispanic Heritage Month is cool, but like, I love what Daniel just said, right? I live and breathe it. It's in my blood. And I'm very fortunate to be able to share and be in community with people between September 15th and October 15th. But I love to tell brands and companies my mouth works in November. Like my wisdom is still true in May. I still know things in June because I'm still a great salsero in April. So
What does that mean, Chris?
It means to me, if we still have to separate things into months, it's not equality. That's what it means to me. Everyone is deserving of more than a month.
Yet? We're
Listen, I agree. It means
about
to
to get
me.
deep in here.
It means to me that it's something that the government created. So all y'all better be out there voting this year.
Period.
That's what it means to me.
Period. We're gonna
It's a great month either way.
It is. It is.
Great month either
Because
way.
you know what? For me, fall is around the corner.
So,
right. Staying on the Hispanic Heritage Month, are there stories that you remember and still resonate from your grandparents, mothers, tias, uncles?
yeah.
Tell me one.
it's-
Yeah. Anyway,
Those are my favorite
maybe
times growing up.
one that guides you also. So if there's a story that guides you from,
Yeah, I feel like those stories, I feel like they were all very exaggerated, that my parents would tell me. Well, my mom specifically, but it opened up imagination, and it could be true, it could be not. I didn't grow up in Honduras in the 60s. So I think, but I remember all those stories, and I feel like it was a powerful way to connect with my roots either way.
yeah. How about you, Annie? Any stories that still resonate with you?
I feel like I have a different experience. I'm 6th generation. So the border crossed us. We didn't cross the border.
Yeah.
But in being that and being really Americanized, though, there was we didn't have like a centralized family. Like it wasn't close knit. I was a latchkey kid. I basically raised myself growing up. What I got a lot of like pragmatism in the household. So it was like I knew how to wash clothes by 5. I knew how to go to the grocery store by 12. I was getting us things like that. Like what my mom instilled in me was you're gonna figure it out, and you're gonna have to figure it out alone. Yeah. Now what I've had to teach her and to teach us now as a family unit, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to assume this responsibility, was instilling community. Mm-hmm. For so long I think I had ran away from it because I'd see them run away from it. And I thought, damn, if I have to be a part of community, I'm gonna have to take care of everyone. And then I was like, but they're gonna have to take care of me too. Mm-hmm. Oh, hell yeah. So I feel like the stories that I've heard was a lot around a lot of brokenness and kind of reframing the story for them, that they are not the story that they tell themselves, and I'm not the story that I tell myself of my childhood, of who my parents were. We can create something new today. Like, I didn't grow up with my dad around, and he has always told me as I've become an adult, like, there's nothing I can do now. I can't put a chupon in your mouth. I can't change your diaper. We're 2 adults getting along in the world. And though the energy around that was a little harsh, I took it and I was like, you're right. So there's no use crying over spilled milk, but I still need my dad. I still need those stories because that's half of my DNA. I still need that connection. So I feel like for me, it's been a lot of untelling of these stories and creating something different. Like, I think that, what is it? We have tradition, but tradition started off as innovation. So I feel like for me, where I'm at with my family is I'm innovating and implementing tradition that helps us move forward.
That's beautiful. Chris?
I don't know my grandparents that well because both my parents didn't really have them. But I was very blessed I've been blessed to be able to make art. And so as a kid, I didn't go to the Dominican Republic and I didn't go to Colombia. But as an adult, I've been able to go there with both my father and with my mother, and to watch them be able to relax and put off the masks and the assimilation for a little bit and return to their blood is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen and experienced. So I have stories, but I also have experiences of watching someone relax into the place they come from and what that does for you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I want to invite anyone who has a question. Is that correct, right? There's a stationary mic. You'll be asked to share. So don't be shy. So let's go to the beginning. We're going to do a middle, and then we're going to close with an end. Okay? In the beginning. In the beginning were words. Words matter. Okay? Let's talk about how this audience can begin to shape the words to then tell the story of their journey, their heritage, whatever it might be. This line actually comes from you. I don't know if you know this. It's, are you telling stories or are you just talking? So in the beginning, he clearly he was deep that day, but in the beginning there were words in the words. So let's talk about how do we begin to shape our story? Let's start with you, Annie.
I think.
How did you start?
For me, I think I always had a lot of big feelings, and I think that's what it started off as. And I didn't have enough language to figure out what that was because there wasn't really like a soft space for me to land. So for me, how I found the words was through creative writing and therapy. And reading authors that articulate themselves like Chris, like creating poetry through my pain. I think that was a big part of, because I think like if you have the heart of an artist, anything can be poetry. Like the worst moment of your life can be something so divinely beautiful that breaks you free.
So someone comes to you and says, gosh, I really want to share my story. What's your response?
Said, have you befriended your pain?
Whoa, that's deep.
I me and my mom are really close now. We went through a point in time where, I think we all go through it. You're like, I hate you, Mom. But recently what I realized what I didn't like was I wasn't able to see her fully because she couldn't see me. And then it became one of these things where I wanted to punish her for all the ways that she wasn't showing up for me, instead of realizing she had no one help her. And if I have the tools, and it's not about putting myself aside, but it's about really being able to understand and articulate myself and be okay with that. Sometimes the truth hurts, but I am not trying to hurt you. Yeah. And I can hold it with you. And that's been a big part of sitting with it. Coming from a single mom, I never want to hurt her. So I'm always, even when we have gotten into fights, it's, let me put myself aside. Mommy, what do you need? For the first time recently, I didn't do that. We got into a fight and she's, we're fighting and I'm like, I love you, Anna, and this is a part of it. So you're going to have to self-regulate because you are a grown woman. I am going to go over here and figure it out. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And instead of holding her above myself, because how you do anything is how you do everything, I found that I would do that in my work. I would do that in romantic partnerships. I would do that in friendships. I sat with myself and I wrote something that essentially was, the reason why I'm able to hurt you so precisely is because I see in you the exact spot that I am avoiding in myself. And so instead of trying to understand it and grieve, I want to strike it and kill it where it's at so I don't have to deal with it. So I think if you can sit with, think about the person that y'all hate the most. There's someone, we all have it, right? More often than not, there is something in them that reminds you of yourself that you just have yet to empathize with.
Yeah, it's that self-mirroring. Yeah.
So I feel like if you can do that, you can get a little bit more honest about what your story is, because there's no one side, right? We always want to make someone the villain and someone the victor. It don't work that way.
Yeah. So then, in that vein, Chris, how have you, in the spirit of starting, writing, sharing story, how have you addressed fear? Like, what was blocking you, and maybe blocking some that are in this audience, that's preventing them from writing, drafting, being present in their story?
I think pretty universal for a lot of people who want to do anything in this life, if I'm being transparent, not just write, is they don't begin. There's a lot of good ideas, y'all. There's a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, like, don't overthink it, right?
But people are afraid to take that first step. They're afraid to get out the shit draft. They're afraid to this man started a business. I know he knows other people with great ideas who want to start businesses, but they don't take the step, And if you don't take the step, you don't have to know where your destination is, but you got to take the step. And I'd say most of success in this world is people who decided to take a step and then take another step and take another. And so with writing, it's like, stop trying to get it right. Stop trying to sound cool. Stop trying to be profound. Just begin. Put something down. Just do the work. And people spend forever not doing, but talking, And we don't want to talk. We want to do. Like, get that shit draft out. Yeah.
Chris didn't always sound this profound. Okay? He's saying this from experience. Y'all listen to him.
Yeah. Daniel, entrepreneur, you have an incredible brand, a true brand, in my opinion. You're partnering, collaborating with Apple, Nike, and I'm sure there are others that I'm missing. For those in the room that aspire to be an entrepreneur, what is the first step you would give them, advice that you give them, insight around how to start drafting that brand story? Because we know they're not a brand yet, but
Chris, with that first step, that's number one. But I think also, Ani, to something you said, that's when we started the brand, we had just the company in general. We had no money, no cash flow, capital, anything, investors, anything. We didn't even know what that meant. I was sleeping in a couch, and it was the dollar in the dream. And one thing we would say is like, this pain will be useful one day, and we would almost meditate.
Oh, repeat
on
that
it.
again. What did you say? This what?
This pain will be useful one day. And I think you read this, and I think I feel like when I'm third answering the question, I'm just adding to what they said.
Because you're going to be first going forward. Yeah, go ahead.
But I feel like honesty.
You better make it profound if you're going to be first. I'm just telling you right now. Yeah.
Honesty is the first. Being honest with yourself and being able to look at the mirror and be true to yourself. And it's just like it's the hardest thing to do. And to be present with yourself. It's like we're so ready to talk about these things and talk about everyone else, but we don't want to talk about ourselves. I think, and then we look at our stories at not being worthy enough. Maybe some of that is due to what we see on TV or systematically what we've been, fed to consume. Like, we don't see it enough. We don't feel like we belong. Does our story matter? And I think that there's that part of it, but we can't live life just blaming what the system or what the TV or whoever is trying to do to our culture or whatever, however we want to frame that. I think we get to a point as artists, as entrepreneurs, that we say, we're going to take that first step. I'm just going to do it. I will say one short story. And I lived in Pico Union in LA, and it's a very immigrant a part of LA next to K-Town. So you have Koreatown, you have the Latino, the Mexican, Salvadorians, etc. MacArthur Park was a block away from where I lived, and every morning they have all the street vendors out there. So this is 10 years ago. I saw them every single day just doing their thing. They had no excuse at all. Like and I looked at them and I'm like, they're entrepreneurs. They know their real estate. They know what time they need to be here in order to sell what they need to sell. I would look at the guy making orange juice. He had just a cart of orange juice. He's probably saying, I'm gonna sell 100 orange juices. I need 3 oranges to sell that. It's literally, he knows his supply and demand. And I'm like, yo, we come from that. This word entrepreneur sounds a little fancy. So it sounds like, no, we're not that. We didn't go to school for business. And I just graduated from a program from Columbia Business School. And people who go to school for business are not businessmen. They help you run your business. So don't look at education as things, oh, I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to do this. Cash flow, capital, investors, LLC versus the whole thing. I didn't know any of that, but I was driven. I was determined, took the first step and made that choice, made that decision. Like I'm looking at the street vendors. I'm like, they have no excuse. I know my man's is feeding his family, sending money back home, coming back, doing it over. And if they have no excuse, if the people in our community have no excuses, whether they came here not knowing the language, the landscape, etc., we have no excuse. So if you want to do that, you just have to make that decision, be honest with yourself, take that first step, and believe that whatever bridge you're gonna cross, that you'll know exactly what to do when you build that. Once you reach to that bridge.
Let me stay with you for a second, Daniel. Were there moments where you were compromising your story?
I have.
You want to share with some of your new friends?
I think it's tough. I don't have the mentorship that, I didn't have anyone that was like, hey, this is what you should do. And, I make that a big thing within my younger group of networks that I try to mentor as much as I can. And, as the brand started growing, I took on opportunities because of what I reflect on is like a mindset of scarcity, of not enoughness, a mindset of like, I never had these opportunities. So when someone's throwing you a bag, a check, some money, and saying, hey, can you dance around like this? And we give you this check. And I'm like, what's the 2-step I got to learn? Mm-hmm. And I've done it and I've learned from it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't, that I've been true to myself. I'm true to myself today, that I can be honest with y'all and say I have. But yeah, I have. It's really difficult when you have that scarcity mindset that like these opportunities don't come all the time. So I've taken on moments that I felt like, you know what, that didn't feel good. And I'm going to do my very best not to do it again.
And that's also cultural, I think. This don't rock the boat, you're getting paid, do your job. My mother once told me, why do you keep talking? Just do your damn job. She didn't say damn. Do your job. I'm not built that way. And it took me this long to acknowledge, I'm just not built that way, kids. I'm gonna keep speaking up. I come from CSEP Weather. My parents marched with Cesar Chavez. That's who I am, period. Right? Yet, there have been moments in my storytelling journey as an entrepreneur, as a former corporate guy, nonprofit guy, where I've compromised, where I'm like, I was singing and dancing because they're gonna pay me $2. What if I just focused on strategy, if I get a little technical, in hopes to get that $20. But no, I took the $2 because I wasn't clear that there'd be that 20 down the street. How many of you in this room are potentially struggling or potentially exploring your own storytelling? Show of hands. Oh, cool. So Chris, question to you. What mistakes do people make in drafting their story? Like, what advice would you give folks in the room? Like, hey, do this, but don't do that.
I will repeat, don't try and get it right. Don't try and sound good. Just be honest. I'll ask you to do an exercise right now. How do you fry an egg?
Carefully.
How do you fry an egg? Some of you would start in the fridge. Some of you would start in the pan. Some of you would start with butter. Some of you would start with Whole Foods. Some of you can't afford Whole Foods. It's a waste of money to spend $9 on a thing. Why is inflation so high? If I really think about an egg, I can also think about the sun, and I can think about the water, which gave it to the farmer, and the soil, and someone made bread. And so you only tell your own story. That's what's so cool about us, is that we can all drink a glass of water and have the completely different experience. Same glass, same place. And so you need to get deeply intimate with yourself. Why are you telling your story? Don't try and sound like somebody you like. You can be inspired, but it's you.
I'm trying to sound like Chris.
No, but I feel like it's also in the same vein of saying like, dang, when I go third, I'm saying it again. But you're saying it again for someone else who didn't hear it, because even like the sonic,
that was deep right there.
The sonic,
absolutely.
Right? But I feel like we forget, like you said, we put ourselves in these casings of these things, and we're these ideas, and I'm this woman with this long hair, but in another version of life, I'm just a vibration. And the sound of my voice resonates with some people, and the sound of my voice annoys the hell out of somebody else. So same with all of our stories. I love that. Just piggyback.
Let me stay with you, Annie. So let's talk about heart. And so does anybody have, so question, audience, who right now is potentially struggling with how to start their story? Who would like to share or ask a question?
Hi. I kind of have the opposite history as Daniel. I actually did fashion first, and then I became a mom and grew up and lots of things. And
Growing up sucks.
a little bit. And then I kind of leaned into the pain, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, what matters to me? What matters to me is people. What matters to me is activism. And I guess my question is, all of you are creatives. All of you are also activists. So how did you get to that point where you were merging the creative with the activism?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you. Yeah, good, Annie.
Go for it. You ready?
Everyone here is a creative. You're creating your life. Creation is not because I painted something. Like, we do get to create how we respond to things, the life we live, the next action. We get to create it, you know? So there's creativity in all of that. And I like to imagine that I'm not separate from the world, I'm a part of it. Like, I need you. I need you to thrive so I can thrive. I guess maybe that's just the Buddhist in me. Like, I really do believe deeply in this interconnection.
Wait, there's Latino Buddhists? What's going on here? What?
And so that's my activism, is like, I can only create for a world that I want to live in. Yeah. And my world is not separate from you. I want you to be liberated so I can get liberated. Yeah.
So what I found interesting, what I found interesting about what you shared is that it was this, and then you re-tapped back into your activism versus that being at the start. So I found that interesting. And does it matter? I know you want to ask or make a comment or ask a question, but Annie, does that matter in drafting the story where, because I get the activism is really the essence of you, if that's fair.
I find that in drafting a story, we think we want a story to be something like Chris and I, for instance, are working on a project, right? And there has been so many different drafts because there's been so much different input, and there's but in that vein, you end up finding that being an artist, you're a conduit for God's purpose, if you allow yourself to be, right? And if you're God or Buddha, Allah, whatever you believe in, right? Jehovah, whatever it is that is your thing, that higher purpose in you, that's what creativity is. It is play. It's reminding yourself that growing up is you're living in the construct of something that you didn't build, that's not for you, never will be. So your activism is in your play. Like he said, the medicine can be taking a nap. Sometimes the medicine is having a fight with your mom. Sometimes the medicine, it can be so many different things, but if you allow yourself to let it be medicine and play and create, and then your activism comes in that. I mean, you're a brown woman who has a business. That in and of itself is a revolutionary act. So I think we're always trying to make it be like, it has to be this thing. So now I'm this thing, so I have to work.
It has to look a certain way.
It has to look a certain way. I have to work with this organization. I have to start this, like Chris said, start and the story will tell itself. Start and be angry, but then let yourself be angry. Throw that fit, say the curse word, kick the door, and then fix it and create poetry with it. What do they say in Japanese culture? When something gets broken, they use gold to put it back together. So it's not broken and ugly, it's beautiful. I think we're always trying to make something look good again and remind ourselves we're making it look like something for the white gaze. If we release all of that, and what does it feel like for us as we move through the world? The words will follow. The activism will follow. The story will follow.
I have a teacher who likes to say to me, everybody wants to save the world, but nobody wants to do the dishes. And so activism is being a good mother too. And activism is rest. And activism is loving one person deeply. Right? Activism doesn't have to be, I went out, I marched, I did the thing. Like activism is a moment-to-moment basis, looking somebody in the eye and actually listening to them. Activism, right? We take our shit everywhere with us. That's what it really means to be authentic, this overly used word that now gets used to sell you something. It means like, I bring things everywhere with me. Yeah. Nothing gets left out.
Yeah, I feel like activism and your creativity is not two separate things. For me, creativity it's all of us, and I look at creativity as how we solve things. You got to get creative to solve it. And if you're doing something that's creative, that's solving something, and it makes you feel good, and it's fulfilling, that in itself becomes the activism. I think the word activism has become trendy and all these things, and I think for a lot of good reasons. And but you still got to look in yourself and say, what do I want to do, and believe that yearn in your heart has purpose that will turn into activism. Because whether it's you're helping one person or 1 million people, it's still activism, even if that person you're helping is yourself or your child or your family or your mom. That is activism. It's not something, it's not a performance that people need to see and say, this is I never want it to be I still feel weird when I understand the work that I do.
It's a big word.
Yeah, so I'm just like, and even in everything that I do, I'm like, I have morals, and I have the way I was raised is to be a good person. And if that becomes activism, and if it doesn't, if I could just be one good person, or at least try to be the best version of myself, I gotta be honest with myself of who I can be and who I'm not.
This might be a bit controversial. I've read that in order for a new story to take birth, to live, right, the old one has to die. And so what story must, quote unquote, die from a Hispanic heritage standpoint? I want to bring this back, that we've all, in order for us, die's a strong word, but I think you all know where I'm going, have rest. Maybe that's a better way.
Dia de los Muertos, die.
I know, I'm trying,
It's done.
I don't want to
It's
embarrass
dead.
Jay. So, what needs to have rest in order for a new story, particularly as Latinos, in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, for it to take flight?
Story of woe is me. I'm just tired of it. It's not woe is me, it's yay is us.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you just freestyle that? Was that real?
Hey, and you know what they say?
Wait a minute. Was that real, or did you read that from Daniel?
They say that you can't just get rid of an idea. You have to replace it with a new one. I like that. Okay.
I think you stole it.
I'll see y'all next year.
I think you stole it. I think you stole it.
What is it? Not woe is me. Yay is us.
Yay. Go ahead. You next.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, we're done?
I
Okay.
agree. I think that's it. I think we're always talking about it. A lot of the time when we do like these conversations with Black and brown folks about how tough it is. What do they say? Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your life. If you're always woe is me, then at every turn, the world energetically, vibrationally will try and show you how woe is you, right? You ever see your homegirls who talk about there are no good men. Every man sucks. And she happens to find all the sucky men. right? You have a homegirl who has a job and she's like, oh, I hate that, you know? And at every new job she starts, you start to think like, you might be the common denominator, honey. Like you might be attracting it. Right. So I think the more we settle into like these truths of ourselves and the celebration of ourselves, of our uniqueness, of our individual voice, and be comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think especially Latinos in America in particular, like our experience, the first gen experience, like us either crossing the border or the border crossing us, having that experience. And because of the colorism within our community, there is a lot of us trying to think our adjacence to whiteness is what's gonna keep us safe. If it hasn't done it yet, it ain't gonna do it, okay? So I think we gotta get out of it and just freaking, yay is me, yay is we.
I often share with my team, and I often say to myself, when things get really tough, I say, we could be picking grapes. I've done it. My family did it for you, right? We could be, you know, when things get really tough, it's not tough. You know, lifting the watermelon into, I can go on, but you all know where I'm going. And so those are things I have to say to myself because, you know, it gets real, it gets tough. But it's not as like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the field, leaving by, you all know where I'm going. Daniel, for you, for example, as an entrepreneur and an amazing human, what stories have had to rest for you in order for new ones to take flight?
I think it's a lot, but you know, as Honduran, Hispanic, Latino, and those, I don't really like any other boxes. I'm not into the box. Don't put me in the box. Don't put me in Latino.
You beyond the box.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, now I had an idea of what your book is about, that I'm brown enough. I thought, but now it's completely different because what you read.
Daniel, read the book. I mean, just read the book.
One thing,
he gave it to you. Just
Chris
read it.
is from New York, so I just felt like one thing about how I grew up, I'm more than like the stories I'm in fashion, so sorry. Like when I see, I don't know, like a brand say like, this is the Hispanic heritage shirt.
Yeah.
And it's like, has the, you know, the colchas from like, the, you know, the blankets that are Mexican. I'm just like, that has nothing to do with my upbringing, who I am. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I think it's just, we're so much more than what this box is. And I think that's a big part of, for me, why those stories of like boxing us in as like, you know, when you see us in a movie or when you see us on TV, and so happy that Ani did the Hot Cheetos movie because it was great to see like new representation, exciting, getting to know you. It's really dope.
I was so proud.
And when you see so much more and you see how much more we are, us as Hispanic, Latinos, minorities, the list goes on. It's like the stories of boxing us in, it has to stop, and don't allow those stories to tell you who you are. And I think last thing, Kids of Immigrants, the brand, my co-founder is Liberian, my other partner is Mexican and Jamaican. We started and we look at each other as different but equal in a sense. And I don't think that, I feel like when we see how much more when we are able to celebrate our differences and look at our similarities, it's what makes this world special. 7+8 billion people in this world. We were all the same. This would be boring. So I think the stories that box us in I think needs to stop. And we need to see so much more stories and so much more just things that, anyway.
That's why I like your diversity of your group of co-founders. It's why I don't say bodies of color. I say bodies of culture, because what I think whiteness wants from us is not our color, it's our culture. That's what they've always wanted. You know, they want that rich experiences. They want our flavors, our uniqueness. You know?
But I also, let me push that though, because I think there's a lot of emerging Latinos that are craving culture as well. There's this resurgence of young Latinos call themselves Chicanas. And I think that's
Relax.
beautiful.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Relax.
I wasn't looking at you, but you're.
I
mean, I was, but I was thinking of you. But listen, you know, I think, or cholo, like cholo culture is, you know, it's real. It's coming back. So I do think that young people are craving. I'm speaking personally from what I see. That perhaps they didn't. I'm talking universally. I'm not just saying one group. That perhaps they didn't grow. Go ahead.
I think that's the work that we've been doing, and I think us three been doing. Like when we came out with the brand Kids of Immigrants, this was a conversation 10 years ago. There was no Latino brands. There's no Latino stores. Now we see it, and I'm so happy that I'm not saying I started it, but I do feel that I'm part of.
I did.
Yeah, but Daniel,
we're a part of the pioneering era of it. So now that we see it everywhere, it's exciting.
Sorry, you had the audacity to even say you're a kid of an immigrant. That 10 years ago was never. Like no one celebrated being an immigrant.
So wouldn't we
in terms
even,
of a brand?
So wouldn't we even
And I think
argue that that's
huge.
culture too?
How was that?
Wouldn't we argue that like that's so like right? We have tradition,
Absolutely.
right, which is what you're speaking about, right? And then culture and innovation, right? Tradition started off initially as innovation, so I think it's that. And I think that is culture. Someone saying, you know what? Forget that. I'm not Mexican. I'm not American. I'm Chicana. You know what? You want to take the word bitch and have it be a bad thing now in culture,
Chingona.
it's like
Chingona.
that's cool. You got chingona.
Yeah.
I got it tattooed on me.
Right. Any chingonas here? No chingona. Oh, okay.
Hella chingonas.
She raised her hand high too.
Don't be scared, perras.
Yeah, don't be scared, mama. Be a chingona. It's all right.
I feel like the new generation is taking.
Okay, I can't be on a panel with Annie anymore.
The new generation is taking their power back.
That's right.
And it's like, no, I am Cholo. I am an immigrant. I am these things. Like, we did something in London not too long ago, and we, as kids of immigrants, immigrant issues in the UK are
real.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, we don't like that you're calling yourself that. When I spoke to them, I was like, I'm not running away from this word. This word is, but yeah, I grew up with parents that I was embarrassed that they couldn't speak the language. I was embarrassed for the food we ate or the ass whoopings that we got. But I'm like, I'm not running that from that anymore. This is who I am, and I'm gonna own it. And I feel like that's something that I see the new generation do, and it's exciting to see.
Gen Xer, we ran away from it. Because, and that
wasn't cool.
Well, it was out of survival.
Yeah.
Hence code switching. If you don't know what that means, I'll come back and we can have that conversation. Because it was a means of survival for many of us. I'm seeing some folks nod. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I mean, it feels like thematically, if we like zoom out, right? Like talking about culture and all these things, that intersection is the shame that we carry, you know, like the shame from all of our stories. But the more that we sink into our pain and use that as our power, the more that we like allow that to be a driving force. Like we are who we are, all of us, because of and in spite of everything that's happened to us.
I agree.
So like, I think what is it, you know, in the Bible, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And it's basically, you know, Jesus just saying like, if I'm able to own that I'm all these things that you are trying to vilify me for, yep, I'm an ass. I'm sorry, I keep cursing, you guys. Jesus Christ, I am
know,
from the
really.
hood. You know, I'm a brat.
Can't take you nowhere.
I'm rude. I'm all these things. Cool. Call me every name in the book. I'm cool with it because you know why? I have resilience to learn from it.
What's one word that describes you? That you say, this is my word?
This is my word.
One word. Daniel, what's one word that says, this is my word? Chris, what's good? Chris, I'm drowning here. What
Curious.
Curious. Someone courageous enough to stand up and say, what's word? What is your word? I got chingona. Spunky. I love that. Another word.
You took my word.
Resilient. Another word. Rebel. I love that. Creative. We're the dudes. Y'all what? Nobody? Nobody has nothing? Yes. Brave. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. A dude.
I got one.
I love the...
Intelligent.
Yeah. I'm fearless.
Mr. President. One word. Curious.
Hey.
All right. I love that.
I'm going to be a president one day too.
Mr. Vice President. Determined.
Enough. Yes.
I got a book for you.
He got a book for you. He gonna sign it. But
Mine would be
You gotta read it,
magical.
unlike Daniel. Oh, hi.
Mine's magical.
Magical.
Yeah.
Okay. Daniel, what's your word?
I'll go with fearless.
Fearless.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is, shoot, what is my word?
Chris, give him a word.
Your word is innovative. Also play.
That sounds boring.
Twerk.
So I have 2 words.
He only gave us one. You see
I know,
what
but
he does?
but it's relax. It's hyphenated. And I truly believe this. I believe that God made me to be the spoon that stirs the pot. I truly believe that. So I'm a pot stirrer. Some might say S word because I don't want to cuss because you all took it all up. But yeah, they only gave us like a few cuss slips, and she took it all of them. Pot stirrer is my word.
Magic.
Magical. Yeah. Anybody else? You in the white shirt. What's your word? Loyal.
That's a good one.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You in the blue suit. Rowdy. With that blue
Rowdy
suit,
rebel.
you're looking pretty like.
I see that.
You know,
Is it Rowdy and
looking
Rebel?
like a banker about to
Rowdy
go.
Rebel.
You know.
Rowdy Rebel. I like that.
So words matter, right? And let's end here around words and the words that we use and the words that we ought to use to affirm, particularly, well, I would say especially in light of Hispanic Heritage Month, but as we go forward beyond the month, what words ought we be thinking, or the exercise of developing words that stick on us, like we own it, tattooed on us? What advice would you give to somebody? What insight?
How to?
Like begin to think about like the words that are affirming for us, that describe us.
I'm a big meditator. I meditate every day. I affirm prayer every day. That is probably the most important meeting and appointment in my life every single day. I do believe in the power of words. I feel like through reading, and when I say reading, I really mean audiobooks.
Not Chris's book. Sorry, Chris.
Chris, do you have an audiobook
Chris,
yet?
Of course, I have
You're
an
not doing so
audiobook.
well,
It's
Chris.
my voice. It's pretty great.
Oh, awesome. So I
You don't have to pay for that one.
I learn a lot of, I affirm a lot of words every day. And one thing that I do, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I do have an affirmation for the day.
What is it?
Today is to love myself. And me and my cousin, he's in the crowd, we were like, he was, because I'm in town, saw him, and we meditated and prayed together, and we're like, yo, today we're just gonna love ourselves. Like, make sure you remember that throughout the day. And it's not a word, but maybe it is. There's a word called self-love, you know.
Yeah.
And I try to use those words, at least just one word or one sentence or one affirmative just statement for the day, and try to change it around, try to and maybe one of those words stick for the week, or maybe it sticks for the month or the year. Sometimes I like to say I have a word of the year. Like this year, I am going to be more disciplined. My whole year, I'm going to figure out how I can be more disciplined. Talent without discipline means nothing. So I need to be more disciplined. I think that was my word last year. But yeah, words are very powerful. Use them wisely. Do never, one thing about entrepreneur that I said this 8 years ago, I will never call anything that I'm doing little. And this is like this sense that we think is humility, but it's really a lack of confidence for me. It's like, oh, I'm working on this little project right here. No, fuck that. Sorry. Yeah, I took up the word.
Forget that.
Forget that.
Forget that.
That is the biggest project. If you love it and your heart's in it and you care about it, you think about it every single day. Don't ever call your thing little, small. Don't ever try to.
Or just. I'm just.
You're doing it. And just because it's not what your mind that steals your joy because you want to compare what you're doing to whoever and whatever, just because it's not that yet doesn't mean it's not big. So I'm very careful. I've never called my brand, and any of my people in my team ever call anything little, I'm like, yo, this is not little. No, that's like one thing that's like very important. It's just one word, but I just don't play myself that way. It's like, I can't, if I think this is little, why is anyone else gonna think it's any different? And that is just and I did this 8 years ago, and I'm not saying this company is huge and humongous now.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. What did you just say?
Yeah. You know, I gotta catch myself too. I'm not perfect.
And you gotta have community that catches you too. Right. I got you, brother. Go ahead.
But I made sure 8 years ago, and the words that we use are really, and sometimes it's just one word that you use to describe what that is, and try to use it every day. Try to write it down at the. Sorry,
like the word sorry.
I'm gonna talk one more. What was the Gabby? The runner, she wrote, I'm a Olympic medalist 500 times every day. She won 2 gold medals for the United States. What's her name? Do you know what I'm talking about? Gabby Thomas. Yeah. She did that every day, 500 times, wrote it down. And I know that sounds obsessive and extreme, but sometimes that's what it takes. So anyway.
The word that I choose to say less of, and that's sorry.
Yeah.
And I would say that a lot. Hey, I'm sorry. I just need 5 minutes of your time. I'm not really sorry. You know, and I found myself doing that a lot. Hey, so sorry to bother you, but I do need to have, and I guarantee you, all of us in this room do it and don't know that we're doing it because we're on automatic pilot. And I also think that's cultural, you know? And so I'm working to take I'm sorry out, unless I'm truly sorry, you know? How about you, Chris?
Susan Laurie Parks is a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, and she says, words are spells in your mouth. You speak in order to change something. And so what words are you speaking and what spells are you casting? Words are spells in your mouth. You speak in order to change something. What words are you speaking? What spells are you casting? I'll say one more thing about meditation. Everybody and their mother's trying to be loud right now. Everybody's trying to say they're somebody. Most people are nobodies. Sometimes the best way to find your words is to be quiet. Create that inner space and allow yourself to be moved so that when you speak, you are actually speaking. It's not just talking. It's not just words. There's a lot of shit out there. So take the space, meet yourself, become intimate with yourself. And when you are moved to tell your story, please tell your story. Honestly, please cast that spell.
Annie, take us home, Annie.
I want to remind you guys that anything and everything that you love out in the world started off as an idea from someone. If it is in your brain, consciousness put it there. And consciousness throws out a lot of seeds to all of us to create things, and very few people put it down to paper, and even fewer put it into fruition and see it through. You guys are all such powerful, conscious creators. The fact that you showed up here today, I know most of us are gonna leave this space and probably never repeat it. Some of us are gonna call someone right after and talk, have conversations about what you heard here today. I feel like a lot of this might even just be affirming things that you already know, things that you read, things that you talk about with your family members and your friends. I did a play this year, and it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. Oddly enough, I'm an actress, right? After every show, every single episode, if you've ever watched any of my work that I've done, I have cried every single day after set. Why am I here? Oh my God. Mind you, all while knowing my whole life that I was meant to be an actress. 7 years old, I never not known what I wanted to do. But every single day after set, after Hentified, after Flaming Hot, after every single project I've ever done, I've went home and I've cried thinking, I suck, I'm not worthy, why did they choose me? I go and I do this play in Boston with my lovely friend, Christopher Rivas. And every day I'm going home, walking home from the theater after tech, and I'm so pissed off at myself because I'm not getting it right. And then it hit me. What am I affirming to myself? I love this thing that I do. all these tools, all these books that I read about self-love, and I'm not practicing it. I go, hold on. Mommy, what's going on? Well, I feel bad. I feel stupid. I feel like I'm not getting it right. And I'm like, and I want to cry. And I know it's stupid. And I go, no, cry. You want to cry? Let's go for a walk. Let's cry. So I walked around the park and I cried. And I cried for about 2 minutes. All I needed was 2 minutes. After I finished crying, I go, what's wrong? I feel ill-prepared. Okay. Well, then why don't you go back up to your room and study? So at least you know you did everything that you could. And when you go up out on that stage, you can be present. Because you believe and act like the star that you say that you are. The more you say these words, it's not just about saying it. Eventually the action follows. In anything. Tell yourself the words and the action will follow. It might not follow tomorrow. It might not follow in a week. It might not even follow in a year. But it will follow. Trust that inspired thought. Trust the words that you say to yourself. And move with action.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's our hope that the words that were spoken today resonated with you and that you begin to take some real action. I started the conversation with what, so what, and now what? Those are the 3 questions I ask myself often. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. What's your story? So what? Is that really your story? Now what? Now what are you gonna do about it? Thank you so much, University of Houston. We hope to see you again. Chris, Annie, Daniel, I appreciate you.